stream the meeting. So it's a little bit slow, and who knows who's being slow here? Is it Zoom? Is it from my end? Is it stream? Okay, so, and I'm going to shut down into here, and we got everyone and everybody's camera, and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about other software programs that can help us summarize, record, study, learn, and we'll cover that. I also want to go into more depth on data warehousing, data marts. Make sure that you have that. We'll go through the schedule. Any comments before we start the class? I'll show you a couple of issues that we had with Blackboard and Wiley Plus, and I'll give you an overview of how we can proceed. So I have everything recording. I also have my on-premise recording. I use MSN Recorder. I record as well to my computer. So we have all the areas set. So I'm going to share my screen. You tell me if you see my screen. You do. And I'm going to open up my browser, and my browser here, you can see everyone that I'm proud of. Anthony, for a while, was in a bus, powered by the U, since we're using that. Okay, so let's go to our fall. And let me talk about a couple of things with you. First of all, you know Wiley reading and adaptive. Everybody's familiar with that. Ava, you're familiar doing any of the readings in Wiley's and adaptive. And at this point, you see that, let me make it so I have it just like what you see. So I have my edit off. So you see here, we have it by the chapters of Wiley Plus. So Ava, Wiley Plus is a different company, and it's a publisher, and we're using its book to do what they call Wiley Pluses, in addition to be able to see the textbook, Ava, and also to be able to do adaptive assignments. When we do this, I have to have something called a connection between Blackboard and Wiley Plus. You remember Ava, we talked about something called an API. Does that sound familiar, Ava?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and everybody can look that up, right? Jack, you can look that up as well. And API stands for an application program interface. And again, when I ask that question, the next question becomes, who cares? And it cares that what we usually want to have is one program being able to connect to another program, that you don't have to leave one program. So Jack, if we think about it, what is something that you learned, and I do every class, that uses an API? Which programs use an API that we've learned, that we've looked at? You have any idea, Jack?
Not really.
Okay, let's try to figure out first, what's my question? My question is, we've looked at a lot of programs. We've looked at Zoom, right, Jack? You enter as a client to Zoom. I host Zoom. I invite you. How do you get into Zoom? How do you get into my Zoom meeting? Through which software? How do you log into Zoom? when I have a class, Jack?
Through Blackboard.
Through Blackboard. Beautiful. It's like we rehearsed it, Jack, right? You enter Zoom through Blackboard. A lot of times when somebody sends you an invitation, you enter through Zoom, right? But what Blackboard did is what? Create a relationship with Zoom, and Zoom created a mutual relationship with them to say what? Instead, what we can do is, as a Blackboard user that has been assigned my class, Jack, you can do a single sign-on. As soon as you get into my Blackboard, right, Jack? Can you go into a Zoom meeting? We don't hear you, Jack. We're recording.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, you can. In that way, there has to be some kind of integration between the two. So you see this, Stephen, where it says learning tools interoperability here? It's called LTI. Put that in your notes. And LTI, the learning tool interoperability means it's a protocol. What does a protocol mean, Stephen? A protocol are a set of standards. So, Stephen, another set of standards, if I think about another set of standards, let me just even do this here. Or protocols. How do I get into a browser? Do you know what the protocol is, Stephen, to get into a browser?
Usually you'd click on the application.
Yeah, and what is it? We have something called HTTP. It stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And what is that? Anytime we want to browse anything on a browser, in order to, we use this. And then we have something called HTTPS. The S stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure. So when would we want to really, Stephen, make something secure? If I'm on the browser, when do I want to make sure that I see the S there, that I see a secure transfer?
Probably if you're like putting some like important information, like
Like
maybe
what? What is
your
the key important information? Have you ever bought anything on the internet?
yeah, like probably my like credit card number would be important.
Exactly. In general, the hypertext transfer protocol is just what we call plain text. If anybody grabs it, they can read it straight out. Secure basically encrypts it, so my hackers, it'll be harder for them to capture. Will it be 100%? No. But if it's not secure, I'm just letting it out there. So it's the same thing. A protocol is a set of standards, so that LTI is also a protocol for what? Learning management systems. Sometimes they call it LMS. So if I think about it, Jorge, do you know a learning management system? Which one are we using in this class?
Zoom?
A learning management system, we're using Blackboard, right?
Oh, Blackboard. Yeah.
That's a learning management system. Zoom, guess what, Jorge? That's a great point. If I'm surprised that Zoom hasn't bought out a learning management system. You got a great entrepreneurial mind, right? Because it would make sense if you have all these students online, why go to Blackboard? Why don't they just sell a learning management system? It would be the next step. But Blackboard's one, Canvas is another one. That's a learning management system. So if I look here, I have a learning management system that, guess what? Think about it. It's like an API, but it's a connection. And what can we do? We can connect, we can sign on, right? Jorge, we sign on from where? Blackboard, and we get into Wiley Plus. We can embed those links of Wiley Plus assignments, and guess what? Beautiful. It goes back to what? Blackboard. Have you ever looked, Jack, at your grades? Have you ever done a Wiley Plus assignment, Jack?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Are the grades go back to Blackboard?
Yeah.
Yeah. That yes means it must be integrated. Two separate programs, but they get to be integrated as well. And the grade then gets passed back. Does that start to make sense, Ava? I don't hear you. Yes, it starts to make sense that they're integrated. So you think something like that, Daniel, would be nice to maybe be an open-ended question later on. You see that, Daniel? Of
Absolutely,
where that's why I'm bringing up, where are the integrations? And who cares? Why would we want that? Why would we want to then say, I like then that Zoom, it has that integration. I'm going to use Zoom versus maybe Google Meet. Maybe Google Meet doesn't have that. Right? I like that integration, that it also works with all the publishers. It works then Blackboard with Zoom. Those ideas, that may be something to think about as open-ended of thinking about it and where businesses can use it and what's the advantage to it. So all of this, why am I telling you all of this? That when I go back, and I'm also showing it to you and Isa here, when I go back, yesterday, what I tried to do is I tried to go to data and knowledge management, and my links then worked. I made sure that all my quizzes worked, Daniel. That's why all the adaptive ones work. But if I go to, let's say, the database approach, I'm going from Blackboard, I'm going to the database approach right here, and I'm going to the textbook. In order for me to do it right now, Stephen, what program am I in right now?
Right now, you're in Blackboard, and then you're looking at the Wiley Plus.
And I'm looking at the
assignment.
Wiley, but they're integrated. You see that? So what I have to do is I have to turn my edit mode on, right? Just like you would do in the teaching. You can't do it. And then look at this under build content. You see this, Daniel? They have Wiley Plus resources already there. And when I click on Wiley Plus resources, I'm connected. My Wiley Plus resources are also linked to the specific book that we're using. I needed to get a new one. And then when they say select resources, I can choose. They let me have all the chapters. So if it were chapter 5, let's say, and then I'm going to apply my things here. Notice I could add, then they have like, in this case, they have videos, they have closing date. I needed, Daniel, to click on all those links again because they were not connecting, because it's a new version of Blackboard. So if I wanted to, I could add a video. If I add a video, then at that point, when I would have added, let me just make this larger. When I added a video, then I could have submitted my video. And you see here, add selected, put that in, and processing count. And then if I go to the end here, you see I have the author selected video right there. So you got it, Daniel? So that's what needed to be done. I'm going to delete this because we don't need it, but that's how it is. And it really makes a nice idea. Notice in the build content, I'm in what? Just like you were saying, Stephen, I'm in Blackboard, but notice They're even having Macmillan, another publisher, Microsoft, right? Another publisher, OneNote, all of these Kane commitment activities, Kaltura. So these are others that I could link back and forth. Questions, comments? So how would then you think about it? An API then is an application program interface that connects two programs. LTI is that basically for that learning interoperability for LMSs. It's a special protocol. They have APIs in the background, and it's a way in which we can stay within one program and connect to the others without going outside of it. So it remains that connection. Apple has been really great with that. If you think about, Daniel, that was what Apple really did well, is it said, I'm going to have you stay in my universe, right? That the Apple was really good at that. Sometimes you don't like that, but they really grab people to do it. They weren't in favor of doing those APIs and LTIs with other programs. They wanted everything among themselves. Questions? Okay, so once we got that, I want to go over, in this case, to share with you the what's due section. That's what we always want to do. And let me turn this off so you see exactly, I see exactly what you do. So today, which is September 17th, you see that we had the screen recording assignments. Some of you had some issues, so we're allowing you by the end of the day to get that in. We talked about data and knowledge management. I want to spend time doing that today in more depth. You had the adaptive assignment, you had the quizzes, and you had these links about Oracle signing that big deal with OpenAI, basically to help with all their data, and the AI boom leaving consultants behind. So to next week, before class on the 24th, we're going to have information security. So I'll be talking next week more about hypertext transfer protocols and security. Everybody knows we have to basically be more secure, and we'll be doing information security. And our assignment is an AI-powered research assistant. That's the key. And I think this is just useful for not only our class for this semester, but really for the rest of your life, is to use those AI-powered research assistance assignments. So we have to go to the AI audit assignment. And then it says this assignment will guide you through a dynamic Gen AI assistant. And to create a unique learning experience, you should record the process as a tutorial for others to follow using the course material as an example. You will upload the PDFs in the textbook chapters. Each person within your group is going to choose a different one unless groups have 5 people. Do I have 5 people here in this class? Daniel and Isa? I don't think so, right?
I don't think not in this class, but
okay, so good. So everybody will choose it, explore. We're going to use something called Google Notebook LM. It's an interactive feature by asking 2 or 3 questions, generating multiple choices, record your session with Zoom to capture both screens and audio. And then if we go to Courses, Miami, and we go to our audit section, I should have HI audit. And if I look at my assignment groups, I should look at group example 0. And we know that The next one that we had these you should have had already. This should be done. And then we have something called AI-powered research assistant individual, where each individual person will put up their work just like we did for Zoom. And notice here, we have then the cloud, the audio link, and the video link, and the person's name here. And then we have their companion summary, their reflections. And guess what? You will then make 5 multiple choice questions based on your chapter. And why is that good, Stephen, you think?
What was that?
What's the advantage for every student then will choose a chapter from the book and create summaries?
Because if we all have different chapters, then there's going to be a lot more to like be able to review.
Yeah. Why not use this? And what I say, what can we use it for? It's a research power assistant. I said, let's study for the exam. You understand that, Reagan? Let's use the tool to study for the exam. Have it useful. So Daniel, do you want to cover a little bit? We'll cover it together. I'll have you share your screen and I'll show you what Notebook LM looks like. Who has ever heard about it? Raise your hand. Perfect. When no one raises their hand, I'm excited, Reagan. Why? Because it's new, right? So in this case, we're going to use a program. So you want to tell them how to get to it? It's notebooklm.google.
.google. And that's very cool that they own .google actually. But that's
So
another
that
story.
instead of com, you think it would be notebook.google.com, but it's notebook.google. Everybody can put that in their notes. You see that, Jack? And it's basically Notebook LM, that your research and thinking partner, grounded in the information you trust, built with the latest Gemini models. Instead of OpenAI models, they use their learning language model is Gemini. Okay, go for it, Daniel.
So if we go to try Notebook LM, this is the page that you will receive. You can see I've actually used it quite a few times for other classes as well. I think it's a pretty unique tool, so I'm excited to share this with you all. You guys will go to Create New, and there you can upload your sources. I'm just going to go to the one that I already did because some of these features take a little while. But once you upload your source, it will show up here. It will spit out a summary of everything that's within that source. I like that a lot. And you can ask it questions. So let's say, what are the main concepts of the chapter?
So it's like ChatGPT or Gemini within the program. And what you upload, Daniel just took it, but he took the PowerPoints that are listed. He took chapter 1 and basically converted it to a PDF. And now it's coming up of why study information systems. You remember managing information resources, the overview.
Yes, which is really cool because you can ask it whatever. But this tool is mainly meant to be used for students. So they have a bunch of pre-selected options here. If you go to this reports option, you can have it create a study guide, for example, or a briefing doc, or an explanation or explanatory guide, or something of that sort. So if we go ahead and create a study guide, it will generate here on the right. You can see on this chapter alone, I've generated quite a few things. The audio overview, there's a bunch of new options now because this has been out for some time. So the deep dive is kind of like a podcast. And you can have it be shorter, longer, or the default length. I prefer the default length. I think it's the best so far. But then you can have it create a debate based on the material in there, a critique, a brief. These 3 over here did not exist last year, so you guys are pretty lucky to have that. But we're going to just use the deep dive conversation because it's probably the most tested and the most refined of the 3. But you're welcome to try these. We encourage that. And then on
You can even
the
now, that's different too. Just go back there. You can choose your language,
yes, it's true.
which
You
it's
can
never
change your
before.
language,
Isn't
and of
that
course you
great?
can, and you will tell them what to focus on. You're going to specifically say that you're preparing for an exam. It's going to be 60 questions, multiple choice, and some short answer. And you want to just have a podcast that kind of helps you understand what you should study or general concepts that will be on the exam. Um, Also, if you all want, obviously for this assignment, we're doing one chapter at a time, but if you want to prepare, you can upload all 5 chapters that you're going to have to know, including all the links, including whatever information you want to upload in here. And you can ask it all sorts of questions. Google right now has the highest token limit per for any of the AI models. It's at 1 million tokens, and Notebook LM allows you to use that. So especially with long PDFs, that's very useful. Yeah. So then the video overview feature, this is a new feature. So again, it looks a little bit more basic than the audio overview feature. But similar things, you can kind of tell it what you want to change about it. Say you need help reviewing for an exam. You can change the language as well. And this, here, I can actually show you. This kind of creates like almost like a lecture, like a virtual lecture, with slides that Notebook LM creates. I'll put it on. Let me see if I can enable audio sharing. Second. I can't do it because of Linux, but um, I don't think any of you use Linux,
Mm.
so that should be fine for your assignments. Zoom just isn't up to date on that, unfortunately. But you can, if I click through it, you can see that it changes the images. It's nothing really detailed, but it's kind of nice, I suppose. And these do take quite a while to actually create. So in the assignment, you're going to be recording yourself going through all these steps as a tutorial again. When you do generate the video overview, you can just pause the recording or stop the recording and come back to it depending. It does take quite a bit. You can see here I have an audio overview, and then there's this interactive mode here. Unfortunately, I can't really show you what it's saying, but if I click on that, I can play the recording and then join in the podcast and start asking a bunch of questions, and then it will change the output of the hosts to answer my questions or to incorporate it, or say I don't like the trajectory of the podcast, I can ask it to change that. And it will literally just completely remake the podcast live, which I think is pretty cool. So lots of new stuff, especially since last year, and I think it's awesome. Let's go to the study guide that we created just a little bit ago. You can see here it has some quiz questions and then the answer keys. And if we had prompted that to be more multiple choice based, it could spit out multiple choice questions. Here we have essay questions and glossary of key terms, all this stuff. So play around with it. It's really cool. It should help you with studying. And of course, we will post a study guide for the exam, but this is definitely a useful tool to prepare for.
It's amazing. So what do you think, Hunter?
I'm excited to use it.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it creates a podcast for you. So what I like, Issa, how do you use it?
Yeah, I was gonna add my little thing to it
Yeah.
too. But last semester I would be like walk to class and make the podcast and just listen to the summaries and what I had to do so I could review because I was very busy. So I would have 15 minutes that I would walk to my class all the way from Centennial. So I would just review like that, or even sometimes I went a little too much and I would do it at the gym, but because of that busy schedule. But it was actually really helpful and I learned a lot just from listening and walking. So
And the voices really sound, you'll be blown away. I think it's good that we don't even listen to it. So when you listen to generate it, it sounds so real, and they make and it's still with two voices. You know how in podcasts sometimes they'll have like partnership. Carissa, that they'll have like two people speaking. So they even have like a banter, like podcast banter between the two virtual AIs talking to each other. So it's incredible for study purposes, for research assistance. And you can put more and more sources. And then when it comes out, you can even, when we'll give the study guide of all the external readings, you can put those up as well, Daniel and Isa, and have it basically give you summaries of the different articles. So that's your first assignment. And then the second assignment will be for the following week, we'll be coming back together in your groups and reflecting on what you've learned. Do you understand? So in this case, Sophia, you'll be coming with your groups. And then what's nice here is, one is you can have, everybody will have a separate chapter. We're doing chapter 1 for you. So for the test, it will be TG1, TG2, chapters 4 and 5. So there'll be 4 extra chapters, 4 chapters. Each of you take 1 chapter. And you can then use it as a tutorial, just like you did before, Sophia. Teach someone how to use it, this program. Plus, you can gain access to it and use it for the exam. What I'd like is that reusability. You got it, Sophia? Comments?
Yes, I did.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we'll see. Try it out. What I suggest you do is do it this weekend. So on Monday, if you have issues, right, Stephen, that they're kind of like issues, you know how issues come up, that will be. What was your problem in this case, Isa, when you were doing it?
So the audio wouldn't load. This is why we changed the short version to the default. And then what was the other thing that we said earlier?
There was no video option
Oh yeah, I had no video option, so that meant
and
that
no
I had to
interactive
create
option too.
Yeah, I had to create a new account because I guess my account was so old that the new features weren't rolling through.
You had
So,
used it before, too.
mhm, yeah,
So see
it
if
didn't
you,
update, but it looked better, but it wasn't updating with the new features that it included that the assignment asked for.
yeah. So those are issues. Okay. Great. I just think I'm just so excited to hear what you got, your impressions are. I think when we ask about it, students were really, it's something that you can use for your rest of your life. So you can see that. And then again, just like you can see, in this case, Isa was doing it. You'll be able to see what she did. Okay. So I want to make sure when we were when I look at my assignments, then you can see here that on the PowerPoints and documents, right, that when we go to data management, that we discussed it before. Let me just share with you the data management. That last time we talked about the data governance. You remember the difficulty of managing the data. We need to have someone in the organization tell us who owns the data. What data are we going to put into the system? And the database approach, we talked about the 3 things that we want to minimize is data redundancy. We don't want to have 30 times your address. We don't want to have your data isolated that other people don't know that you're on a sports team, don't know that you're a finance major and also a French major. The data is consistent. So you want to minimize that, because in a database, we put the data in one place. We want to maximize data security because since our data is in one area, it will be, if it's hacked, if it's eliminated, if that hard drive gets corrupted, we want to make sure that it's secure. We want to make sure data integrity, that we can rely on the data, and that if something is eliminated from the database, that the data is independent. And we talked about the data hierarchy, remember, that we can think about it as a data file. Another name for a data file or a table is a sheet. You remember we talked about that last time, that we talked about this was a sheet. This was a field, if I think about it. Sophia, what was a field? A field is a column, right? In a database. And we also talked about a record. And Sophia, what is a record in a database? Do you remember? It's a row in a spreadsheet. So if I had a student database, Sophia, you would be one record in that grade book. We talked about that last time, and we talked also about the hierarchy of data. What is important in the student database example is, if, let me just do this as my slideshow, and let me do it from the current slide. If you look at it, notice in this case, it's what? If I have my student name, that's a field. Student ID is a field. The major is a field, the GPA, and the graduation. And I have something called, I talked about it before, as a primary key. A primary key basically distinguishes it, that it's unique to one record. So if I had to ask you, Ava, what's a primary key in this table, what would you say? What field is unique?
Oh, probably, would it be the MIS? That's what it says.
Okay, let's look at it again. Let me just show my slide from the current slide. We'll work it together. You can put in your notes there, primary key. A primary key is a field that is unique to each record. I would be able, by a primary key, find a record. So what would be unique here? Student name, student ID, major, GPA, or graduation date? What's unique here? Sophia.
Sorry, can you repeat that? My audio's
Okay.
not.
Okay. Do you want me to ask someone else, or you want me to repeat it, Sophia?
You can repeat it.
Okay, I'm repeating. Do you see this? What's the first field name called here?
Student name,
Student name. What's the second field?
student ID,
What's the third field?
major,
What's the fourth?
GPA,
And what's the graduation date?
graduation date.
Okay. And there's something called a primary key.
Is
It's
it
important.
is it the student ID?
Why?
Because the student name, it could have like different people that are named, have the same name, and they can have the same major, and they can have the same GPA and the same graduation date, but they can't have the same student ID. It's the same as
Perfect, right.
social security number.
Same as social security number. It's same as, do you have a C number
Yes,
at this institution?
yes,
Is it unique?
yes,
So if you were in my grade book, there could be somebody with your everything else, but would there be somebody with your same C number? No, that makes it a primary key. Got it?
yes.
Perfect. So in this case, when we're going to be doing it, you see that that is, if I asked you, right, that would be the primary key. We have something else called big data. all of this is big data, but what is important here is defining the characteristics of big data different from other data is that big data is high volume. What's your major, Sophia?
My major is economics on a political track.
Okay. So in the political track, so if you thought about voting data, you think there's a lot of voting data?
Yes.
Yeah, it's high volume. If you think about trading for stock trading, you think that's going to be high volume?
Also, yes.
Yeah, high velocity. Does it change every second, every minute?
Yes.
That's part of big data. So you're going to need different ways in which to analyze that data. That's called big data for decision making, insight discovery, your optimization, processing. That's what a definition is. Big data includes structured data, just like when we look about the stock market data. What do I need? I have a symbol, I have the opening price, I have a closing price. That's structured data. What's unstructured data would be like a video. That's unstructured data. Voice is unstructured. Semi-structured would be a combination. So basically, big data has high velocity, meaning it comes at a high speed, just like we would have in voice, and it's uncertain patterns. We don't know what's going to happen in a few minutes. All of a sudden, you can see the news changes, and we don't know what's going to happen. And in basically big data, it's not fitting into traditional structured data, and it can be processed, transformed only by sophisticated systems. That's what they call big data. That's how big data makes it up. Think about social data, all that data from social media. That's part of big data. I want to find out the trends. I want to find out the sentiments, images. I want to be able to do computer vision. I'm looking for someone. So the characteristics of big data is that there's a huge amount of data. That velocity means it flows increasingly fast, something like the stock market, and it could be coming from a variety of different sources. It can be coming from different streams. And the issues is, how do I make it? Those are the issues, is how do I trust those sources? How do I know that my data has all the characteristics, that it's not missing anything? Think about even voice. Sometimes I come in and out. That's kind of going to give me dirty data. And especially you can have a lot of changes from all those streams. So what happens is you need then ways to manage that data. And in managing that data, you can manage it in small amounts or in big amounts. So this is an area which I want to talk about, is a data warehouse. A data warehouse basically houses data that I can analyze. A data warehouse houses data that I presently do not use for my present calculations. And a data mart is a subset of a data warehouse. So you can basically, when I think about it, is a data warehouse. What is the key here? Bobby, the key here in a data warehouse is this word. Do you see this, Bobby?
Yeah.
Read it for me.
The whole sentence or just the highlighted word?
The highlighted word.
Historical.
Historical. That's the key. So if I ever asked you in terms of the data warehouse, you want it as historical, that are organized by subject to support decision makers in the organization. So a data warehouse could be it could be my stock data. It could be historical data, could be my information on my students. It could be on my freshman students. It could be on my seniors. It could be on my data warehouse could be on the students that graduated. So it could be organized by subject, and a data mart then is a smaller version. So a data mart could be, I want to find for recruiting places those students that succeeded well and found jobs and loved the university. So we can go out and recruit more students, or if they graduated for development purposes, ask them to contribute in some ways. So basically, you can think about a data warehouse as historical, a data mart is a subset of it, and we know that it's organized by a certain subject, so it could be by students for retention. It could be for students that I'm going to recruit. It could be for, if we were the university, those students that for scholarships. It could be those students that succeeded well, those students that became executives. And I can use some online analytic processing. I can integrate it. And now if I think about it, I have this word called non-volatile. Marco, what does non-volatile mean? And if you don't know what non-volatile means, is what can you do? You can look it up in my class. So what does non-volatile mean?
Isn't it the data that doesn't get deleted if you close your computer?
Exactly. Perfect. It's like what? Like secondary storage, right, Marco? RAM is volatile. So what does this mean? Why is this? Because it's historical, and I want to save it, what they call a data warehouse. It's not a physical warehouse. It's basically in a way in which I'm going to store it together. And who is involved in these kind of things are people that are doing my hardware, right? Software components, those Microsoft does warehouse. Guess who else? Oracle does warehouse. Anybody that does large databases does data warehouses, and it's multidimensional, meaning that what? That I'm going to have a number of characteristics, a number of fields. So those are the areas, and in a generic data warehouse, you have to do some of the same things you're going to do with Marco with any data, right? You're going to have to make sure the sources I have are reliable. So if it's going to be stock market data, I need to make sure that that was good. It's not going to be my present data. It's going to be those from my past. I have to be able to integrate it, right? I have to find ways to store it. Metadata. Metadata is not the data itself. It's the data that describes the data. So in this case, for instance, if it's symbols, if it's certain symbols, these are the descriptions of the certain symbols. It has to have a certain number of characters. Data quality, is it good quality? If it's not good quality, Marco, guess what? I'm using the data warehouse to make some predictions, right? And if I can't rely on the quality of the data, it's going to be useless. And data governance means what? Who is in charge of that data? What data are we going to put into the data warehouse? You remember some data warehouse, if it's going to be for, let's say, medical terms, some data we can't even store, maybe that is identifiable data for some clinical trials. And basically, who's going to be using that data? And this is the description of a data warehouse program. It gets to be a little bit complicated, but I want to show you what it is. It's pretty easy to understand. You see this, Marco? This symbol here that looks like a cylinder. Do you see this, Marco, that I'm saying? I have something called in pink. I have something in green. Do you see that? Marco?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Anything that is, and you can put this in your notes, Marco, anything that looks like a cylinder is a database. So you see all these are databases. So this is my source. So I can do it. A POS is my point of sale. When I go to Publix or you go anywhere and they scan your item, right? Or CVS, when you scan your own item, that's a point of sale. Whenever I scan it, it goes into the system. And ERP is an enterprise resource processing. It means basically this is going to take care of my enterprise and tell me how my enterprise, all the resources, how they're doing it. Legacy means my old work. This is my transaction processing, and these are some external documents. Once I have all my data that I'm going to be putting, let's say, Marco, you were in charge of the data warehouse framework, you would be deciding with a group who owns the data governance, of what sources are you going to take into it. And then this extraction means, put this in your notes, Marco, that this extraction means I got to clean the data. I have to make sure that if I'm doing, let's say, going to forecast what I'm going to be trading in the next week, I need to make sure that the data is clean, meaning the data is complete. And I could be, depending on, I could do supply chain data, enterprise data warehouse. This means what? From the entire enterprise, let's say the entire university, or from the NASDAQ. In this case, metadata is what? Just describes the data. It's not the data itself. You know, have you ever seen when they do crime shows, they're following somebody's cell phone. They don't know what you talked about, but what do they know? Which tower you pinged, what time, who called whom. That's called metadata. Metadata tells me about the data, but I don't know the details about the data. And then it's stored. So you see here, I have the source, I have the data integration, and then I have to store the data, right? You told me that it was non-volatile, right? So I have to store it somewhere. And I can store it in smaller parts called data mart. So I could do for marketing purposes, I could do for management, I could do for finance. Then we access it, and then we get reports. So that's what we have in terms of the data management. And there's something called relational databases. And if I think about relational databases, these are like tables in a spreadsheet. I have this table. How many fields do I have? I have 3: product, region, and sales. Product, region, and sales, and product, regional, and sales. So, Stephen, do I have a primary key here?
Yeah, you would have a primary key.
What primary key do I have here?
I'm not sure.
Let's just not say it. Let's think. In this table, do I have a primary key? What is the definition of a primary key? That that uniquely I can find a record. Do I have a primary key here? Go back to you, Stephen.
I'm not sure. I think you do. I think like
Where? What do I have? I have product. Does anything? It's anything unique here? Any row? I have product, nuts, screws, bolts, and washers. That's not unique. Region, east, west, central, east. No. So in this case, I do not have a primary key. But if I had a grade book, Stephen, what would be my primary key? I would have what? I'd have first name, last name, C number, test 1, test 2.
Yeah, so that'd be unique because it would be a primary key because it's unique.
Which one? Which one? Which field?
First
name, last name, C number, test
C
1,
number,
test...
C number would be primary.
Yes. Yes. Do you see that? C, primary key. I could find Stephen James Sorrells. Based on what? Primary key, based on your C number. And versus I could find Reagan's, right? But if I just said test score, test 1, maybe you and Reagan both got 100s. So it couldn't be unique. You got it? So the whole idea of this data, and think about now AI, Marco, that when you think about AI, how much now we have all those models and all that data, why it needs to have ways in which to analyze it becomes a big problem. It kind of is easy from the back end of just doing, a chat GPT, but actually analyzing the data. Think about where's the next group, the next challenges is going to be on computer vision, right? It's the idea to be able to do sentiment analysis. Who's a marketing major here? Raise your hand if you're a marketing major. Anybody? Nobody's a marketing major? Think about it, that I want to have sentiment analysis. Have you ever seen I can do sentiment analysis by social media, right? To see what are the trends even in stocks, what are people thinking about? But I can do sentiment analysis by your facial features, right, Marco? That basically I can do computer vision by my facial features. But that's much more difficult. And how do I then analyze those facial? I can tell if somebody's lying, somebody is telling me stories. They can basically do it. I can do it maybe for therapy, whether you're sad, what are the issues, whether you're happy, how you're improving over time. All of that's going to be very difficult because it's what? Unstructured. It's not like, in this case, Filippo, it's not like I'm going to just take our test, my grade book. My grade book is simple. First name, last name, right? And Daniel, he's the king of my rubric, right? And you can put all those analysis there, and he loves to do the curve, and he loves to, these are 5 points more, 5 points less, right? But that's simple, right, Daniel? That is very structured, right? You get a grade, right? A 10, a 9, an 8. No big deal. But if he had to try to say, okay, Daniel, we want to see the interest when we speak about a certain topic, right? What really gets everybody excited? Hey, studying for the exam, right? And there may be sensors or something there, or how their eyes perk up or something. We can almost sense it, but how do you describe that to a computer? So those are areas that are interesting. They also could use it for the detriment, and you can see how they can do fakes. And well, how do we know if something's fake? How do they know that they don't take me and clone it? And now in the beginning, you can almost tell, right, that it's been doctored, but later on, they're going to get really good about it. Okay. Any other questions? Comments? Everybody understand what we need to do? So today is Wednesday. I just wanted to just repeat this, that we have that new assignment of Google Notebook LM, which is fantastic. You can give me some of it. They're still in the process of using it, of processing, of generating. The video takes more time. So even break down your assignment and you say, hey, this is part 1. I'll do the video separate, with the audio that you can see. And each person, the one thing you have to do, and this is important, Daniel and Isa, to emphasize to everyone, you have to get with text your group now or meet with them to decide who's going to do what chapter. Because I want each group to cover all the chapters. Not a big deal. You got that, Peyton? So you decide we took chapter 1 ourselves, but you decide in this case which chapter you want. Later on, as Daniel and Isa said, you can take each of your chapters together and combine them together. But that's the only thing that we were requiring among the group, is we don't want everybody just to do chapter 5, and it makes sense. And then you'll get together the next time and do it. That's doing the 24th. We'll give you the reflection assignment on the 24th. October 1st, we will not have class. Class is canceled. Everybody can put a note there. October 1st, class is canceled. And then on the 6th, we will have a review. On the 29th, we'll give out the study guide, our little study guide, but you can have your own study guide. And then on the 8th, we will have the exam in person. You got it, Zach? Any questions, Zach? It's all clear?
All very clear.
Great. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so Daniel, would you like to do the honors of taking attendance? And then we'll have everybody, somebody needs to see us, we'll stay after class. Otherwise, I wish you a good weekend, and then I suggest, try it out for Monday. You understand that, Stephen? Try it out for Monday, and that way, if there are issues, you can come back and say, hey, this didn't work, because guess what? We don't control Google Notebook LM. We can do it rather than waiting everybody to the last minute. Hey, it didn't work. You got it, George? Good. So we got I'm sure that Daniel did you put it 3 times, Daniel, in the chat?
Quite a few.
Few. I love it. You put a few. 2589. And you can stop sharing. And then see you on Monday. Stay with me if you have questions. And Marco, we'll figure out another time to meet since you can't make it today.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome. And Lily, we okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have a question about
Sure.
or like the grade on my group assignment, but I don't know if like they're able to answer. I just wanted to know what we missed points on.
Okay,
Gotcha.
so
I'm pulling it up. Let's stop the recordings.
yeah.